Hello and welcome to FlipNClip. Today I'm going to explain a sci-fi adventure movie, so don't forget to grab your snacks and enjoy the video. Because to humanity's materialism and disregard for the surroundings, Earth has devolved right into a wilderness. Within the 22nd century, all of the survivors escaped at the Axiom megastar liner, leaving at the back of trash-compacting robots to clean up the planet. Unfortunately, the cleanup is a complete failure, and 700 years later, simply one robot named Wally remains. Wally works even as listening to song and keeping company with a roach. Whenever he reveals something fascinating, he brings it back to his home, which he constructed in an old rubbish lifter. His collection incorporates an old film, and seeing it makes him choice to touch hands with someone he cares about. Every night or whenever there may be a sandstorm, Wally transforms into a dice and sleeps on his own shelves. When he desires to raid, he permits the light to do it. After having some troubles with a hearth extinguisher, Wally makes use of his laser to cut open a fridge, and is surprised to discover a plant internal. He slips it right into a boot and walks home. While he notices something new, a small dot appears suddenly on the floor. Wally begins following the moving mild round, however the dot quickly multiplies, and Wally realizes the lighting are from an oncoming rocket. He hurries to a hollow and watches the rocket land, then releases the more recent model named Eve. Before departing, Eve right away starts flying round, looking for the target of her challenge. Wally develops an overwhelm on her right away and follows her around, though he still feels afraid each time Eve shoots at something due to the fact she heard a noise. The roach isn't as afraid and a method Eve, who shoots at it before figuring out it's an innocent creature and befriends it. Eve cannot forestall giggling at the roach on foot on her body, which makes Wally chuckle as well. When Eve hears him, she shoots, and Wally best manages to rescue himself by way of transforming right into a dice. Eve checks on him, and whilst her scanner famous he's just a cleansing robotic, Eve dismisses him and continues her hunt. Wally does now not surrender and keeps observing her around, trying to impress her with presents and acts, however failing miserably. Eve is focused on her quest, however she is becoming disillusioned considering that she isn't finding something. Eve ultimately cracks whilst a magnet crane by chance grabs her and sets fire to the entire device. Wally notices she's dissatisfied and procedures her to console her, sooner or later prevailing her friendship. A sandstorm seems near at that point. Eve begins to panic. However, Wally without delay drags her to his house. He then starts off evolved to show her all the exciting stuff he has, and Eve knows how to use multiple of them, such as making a flame seam on a lighter. When Wally suggests her his preferred film, Eve information it and then attempts to imitate Wally's dance actions. This reasons Eve to accidentally push Wally towards the wall, breaking him. However, Wally is unconcerned due to the fact he has plenty of substitute components to repair himself. Wally wishes to hold Eve's hand, but she is not able to achieve this. Wally then tries to impress Eve by showing her plant. This speedy reasons her to take the plant and place it inside her body before coming into pill mode. It seems that proof of plant life changed into her purpose. Wally will become determined and does the entirety he can consider to rouse her wakeful, including leaving her out in the sun to price or even bringing her out on dates, but not anything works. Wally ultimately gives up and returns to work, only pausing to stare at the lighter to don't forget her time with Eve. A rumble attracts Wally's attention. The rocket is returned, and it's wearing Eve with it. Wally dashes to the rocket and grabs the railing so he can accompany it. Wally is amazed with the aid of the whole lot he sees when the rocket reaches outer area. He also exploits its closeness to the sun to completely recharge. They sooner or later discover Axiom, who's hiding in a galaxy far away. A swarm of cleansing robots receives the rocket to clean the whole lot of capacity infection. MO, a small robotic, attempts to clean Wally, but while different robots take Eve away, Wally begins to observe them, leaving a path of muck behind. This manner MO will start following him as well. They arrive in a corridor in which Wally discovers the reality approximately humanity's current nation. They have all turned out to be obese and torpid, and that they stroll round on floating chairs, their eyes never leaving the display screen. The operation of Celebrity Liner is dealt with totally by robots. From babysitting to cooking, the appearance of Wally attracts John's attention and leads him to fall off his chair. While a crowd of robots arrives to place John back into his chair, Wally races after Eve. Wally asking Mary for a few space to move as a way to attain her. Mary actions returned, which causes her to stop looking on the screen and as an alternative explore the arena around her. As though for the primary time, Wall-E appears as Eve's handler and accompanies her to be examined via Otto, the Deliver's AI autopilot, who does a short experiment before going to revive the captain as much as deliver the information. Captain McRae is likewise a slacker who in no way receives out of his chair. So Wall-E hides under the table to watch him undergo the arduous ritual of checking the machine. After making the daily statements to the populace, McRae subsequently wakes Eve up and discovers she has a high-quality outcome. This by no means occurred, and while McRae clicks the plant button on his panel, a video begins playing without delay. The President of Earth comes at the TV and broadcasts that a positive end result implies the robots have discovered flowers on Earth, allowing them to go back. The control panel expels a guide, which McRae examines for instructions, and even as he is busy, Wall-E methods Eve, who is amazed to peer him and rapidly orders him to cover. McRae activates a robot arm to get the plant, but whilst Eve opens her frame, she discovers that the plant has disappeared. Otto says she's probably broken, so McRae calls it a false alarm and cancels the ride to Earth earlier, then sending Eve to be repaired. When Wall-E finally introduces himself to McRae, he shakes his hand and leaves some dust at the captain's arms. For that reason McRae sends him to be wiped clean. Once the robots are long past, McRae puts the dust on the scanner to be analyzed, and is surprised by means of all the matters he gets to study Earth, so he keeps himself busy asking the AI plenty of questions. Eve and Wall-E arrive at the Restore branch, and Eve is compelled into tablet mod with special hardware. Wall-E nearly gets the identical treatment, but he dodges the hands and ends up getting a makeover from a faulty Splendor assistant. Then Wall-E is put in a cage. Even as Eve is given the renovation remedy, Wall-E errors this for torture, so he breaks the cage together with his laser and breaks through the door to rescue Eve. The working robot attempts to shoot Wall-E to prevent him, however Wall-E dodges it and the shot ends up hitting the control panel. This causes all the cages to open, and the robots take the threat to break out, because they do not forget Wall-E their savior. The malfunctioning robots take him with them, and Eve follows them. When they attain a corridor, a collection of defend robots blocks their way and take an image of them to elevate the alarm. The picture appears on all the ship monitors, warning the populace about rogue robots, and the guards try to arrest them. Eve at once picks Wall-E up and flies away, hiding in a window till the guards are long gone. Afterward, Eve brings Wall-E to the elevator, wherein he attempts to be pleasant. However, she's so irritated about those shenanigans that she shoots a display screen to close him up. When the elevator reaches the hangar, Eve attempts to place Wall-E in a pod to send him back to Earth, but he refuses to go if Eve does not come too. Suddenly they listen a noise, and Eve and Wall-E get into capsule mode to hide. The visitors a bit robotic manage through Otto, who brings the plant to send it back to Earth. Wall-E rushes into the pod to try to rescue the plant, however at that second the little guy turns on the pod, and Wall-E is released into area. Eve straightaway enters an emergency go out and is released out too, whilst Wall-E presses all of the buttons to make the pod prevent, but he turns on the self-destruct sequence rather. Eve watches how the pod explodes and thinks it's all over. However, Wall-E unexpectedly passes by way of her using a hearth extinguisher as though it changed into a jet. Both robots fly round till they finally get to Satisfy inside the middle, and Wall-E well-known shows he is controlled to shop the plant. Eve is so satisfied that she hugs Wall-E and pushes their foreheads together, sharing a small spark of energy that feels that a kiss. Wall-E is greatly surprised, however additionally overjoyed by way of this, and he makes use of his extinguisher to dance with Eve in space as they make their way return to the ship. This is seen with the aid of John and Mary, who are finally playing the stunning view of space, and approaching the window lets in them to fulfill each different for real. Eve and Wall-E get returned at the deliver, and Eve sneaks around to avoid the guards, leaving Wall-E in the back. She reaches the captain's room correctly and fingers the plant to McRae, who gets excited due to the fact now they are able to go back to Earth. Eve interrupts him to reveal him the recording she took of the planet, and McRae's disenchanted to look Earth is not the lovely vicinity he noticed in the old pictures. However, while Eve plays Wall-E's old film too, the sound of tune brings back some wish, and McRae decides that if the little plant didn't give up, he should not too. The movie reaches the element about the hand keeping and Eve starts thinking about it too, especially when the recording abruptly suggests her all the things Wall-E did for her whilst she was asleep. Meanwhile, Wall-E attempts to move looking for Eve, coming into a trash chute, and MO follows him. The captain tries to order the ship to return to Earth, but Otto stops him and asks for the plant. McCrae refuses and demands evidence. Thus Otto performs some other video. The president of Earth declares the cleanup applications become a failure and that toxicity degrees make life unsustainable on Earth. This manner the mission to decolonize is cancelled, and Directive A-113 places the ship on everlasting autopilot, so people can stay in area. Otto is loyal to A-113 and that is why it had taken the plant from Eve when it checked on her the first time. McCrae notices this video is around 700 years old. Because of this the information is old and the plan proves lifestyles can be feasible on Earth, which means they must go back. Otto calls its little robotic to stop them, and whilst the small man takes the plant, Eve threatens it. The robot responds with the aid of throwing the plant into the trash pipe, but at that second, Wally climbs out of it with the plant on its head. Eve tries to reunite with Wally, but the little robotic captures her. Wally hides the plant interior his body, but Otto electrocutes him and pushes him into the pipe earlier, then placing Eve in pill mode and tossing her too. Otto locks McCrae in his room to keep him quiet. Seconds later Eve wakes up way to a mouse robot pressing her button, finding herself within the rubbish disposal room. Here the machines press the garbage into cubes to then throw them into space, and each Eve and Wally emerge as in those cubes. Using her gun, Eve frees herself, however she is not sturdy sufficient to tug Wally out as nicely and the cubes get ejected. Suddenly Mo shows up and receives stuck at the internal door. The pressure of the ejection enables Eve get Wally away from the rubbish and she flies back to keep on to Mo. The garbage robots note there may be trouble and at once near the outer doors, helping the trio come lower back internal. Wally isn't always operating nicely, so Eve goes searching out chips to restore him. Unfortunately none of these present-day portions are excellent for a vintage model. Wally gives Eve the plant, asking her to prioritize the mission. At first Eve refuses and even tries to maintain Wally's hand to make him trade his mind. However Wally pushes her hand away and insists Earth is extra vital, imparting the lighter as proof. Eve realizes Earth will have the important parts to restoration him. Accordingly she grabs anybody and flies lower back into the principal place of the deliver. A Protect sees them and raises the alarm, however Eve pushes it away and maintains going while the other rogue robots comply with her. Otto sees the entirety on the screens and turns on as more guards. McCrae also sees it all too and starts off evolved messing with the control panel, so he can do a transmission. The captain seems everywhere in the ship to reveal Eve the guidance guide, pointing at the place in which the plant have to be deposited. Eve and Wally start transferring best to locate themselves surrounded through guards robots. However the rogue robots immediately begin combating the guards to clear the manor for their savior. Meanwhile McCrae places a photo of the plant on the screen and calls Otto, pretending to have the plant to taunt the AI into coming after him. As quickly as Otto enters the room, McCrae jumps on it to combat it, and within the warfare he kicks the little robotic outside the window. After masses of pulling, he manages to attain the manage and activates the visiting mode of the ship. Now the robots start to position the humans geared up for their trip to Earth. The unique capsule for the plant opens within the middle of the ship, but whilst Eve and Wally are about to reach it, Otto pushes McCrae off and steers the deliver to make the plant fall. All the people fall off their chairs, and Mary and John need to work together to store a bunch of toddlers. 2 transporting couches begin falling as properly, however Eve stops them proper earlier than human beings can get overwhelmed. Otto shuts down the unique capsule, so Wally rushes to keep it up, getting even greater broken. McCrae makes an effort and subsequently stands up again, permitting him to jump on Otto and turn it off for accurate. Then the captain puts the ship back into place, and Eve goes to test on Wally at the same time as asking all people to search for the plant, Mo, the rogue robots, and the human paintings collectively to retrieve the plant and toss it into the capsule. This activates the returning program and releases Wally from the strain, however he isn't always running. In just 10 seconds, the deliver pulls off a hypersoar and returns to Earth. As soon as they land, Eve takes Wally to his home and fixes him, taking pictures a hollow in the ceiling to make sunlight recharge. Wally wakes up but Eve is devastated to see he doesn't recognize her, no longer even if she suggests him his series and the movie. It appears Wally has misplaced his persona and he just begins working like an everyday robotic. Eve tactics him to mention one closing goodbye with the aid of holding his hand and giving him a touch electric kiss. This causes Wally to abruptly maintain Eve's hand again, little by using little. Wally's character comes lower back, He and Eve have a sweet second collectively, while McCrae indicates the human beings the way to develop the plant. From then on, robots and human beings work together to rebuild their society with a good deal extra nature pleasant techniques, and the movie ends here. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment below.